and how it plays a factor, and how we didn't even talk about this topic because we were afraid.
A Black executive perspective.
Welcome to BEP Live from a Black Executive Perspective podcast. I'm your host, Tony Tidbit. We're here, we tell the truth. We talk about what people avoid and what gets ignored because real change never comes from comfort.
And I'm Chris P. Reed. We cut through the noise and get straight to what matters: power, politics, culture, leadership, and the moments shaping our lives right now. No filters, no safe take, just honest dialogue and real accountability live. So let's get into it.
Definitely, my friend. So tonight's episode is not about a single headline or a viral moment. It's about the most consequential Black stories of 2025. They were quieter and far more dangerous. It was called, if we had to sum it up in one word, rollback.
So look, let's just be clear. The rollback is being disguised as neutrality, as efficiency, as moving on. What we witnessed this year wasn't accidental. It was coordinated across government, corporations, technology, culture, and policy. So let's get ready for uncomfortable, because tonight we're naming it.
Definitely, buddy. And it's definitely going to be uncomfortable because 2025 revealed something that we always knew. However, it reminded us of it very clearly. That is, Black progress is never permanent. It's always contested. So that's what we're going to dive in today. And we're going to use as our foundation a drop piece from our partner. Everybody knows Dr. Nasinga Burton and her show Need to Know with Dr. Nasinga every Thursday here on the Black Executive Perspective podcast. So Dr. Burton, on her news publication called The Burton Wire, created some of the top news elements of 2025 that we should remember. And the title of that was 2025, the year Black progress was tested. And you can go look at this at her website on the Burton Wire, or you can go to Substack, where she also has it hosted on Substack. And so basically what we wanted to do is we're going to dive into this. We appreciate her putting this together, but this is something that we want to get into. And so you ready, partner, to start diving into this?
Man, absolutely. I'm very excited about this because she put some nice things together that people need to hear.
Exactly. So let's dive into it. Like we said, 2025, the year of the rollback.
Trey Sherman sat in a CBS conference room on October 29th, 2025, listening to a conversation that felt rehearsed. The tone from his superiors was impeccably professional, full of the polished, sterile euphemisms that usually accompany corporate restructuring and shifting strategic priorities. There was no shouting, no dramatic flair, just the quiet finality of a door closing on a career. But as Sherman walked back into the newsroom to process the news, the professional veneer began to crack, revealing a much more surgical reality. Sherman, a producer for CBS Evening News Plus, realized he wasn't just losing his job, he was being tasked with dismantling a legacy. On his 9-person team, every single producer of color had been let go. Meanwhile, his white colleagues weren't heading for the exit. They were being shown to their new desks, reassigned to different roles within the company. It was a scene of quiet, efficient erasure. If you look at the official websites for these major networks, the digital monuments to the diversity, equity, inclusion promises of 2020 are still live. You can still read the fervent commitments made in the wake of George Floyd's murder, where CEOs promised that half of their workforce would soon reflect the diversity of America. They speak of lasting change and never waiting again to do what's right. Yet, as 2025 arrives, the very year many of these organizations set as their ultimate deadline for equity, the reality on the ground has taken a sharp, contradictory turn. At NBC, the dedicated verticals for Black, Latino, and LGBTQ plus voices have been shuttered, their staff purged under the guise of integration. At Teen Vogue, a magazine that rebranded itself as the political conscience of a generation, the last remaining Black women on the editorial staff were shown the door in a single afternoon. The industry calls these budget cuts a necessary response to a shifting media landscape. But when you look at who is left standing and who has been systematically removed, a different question emerges. This doesn't look like a financial crisis, it looks like a design. We are witnessing the intentional dismantling of the black press within mainstream institutions, and the silence from the boardrooms is the loudest part of the story.
The tough part about it is, and you've talked about this before, it's very highly capable and qualified individuals that are just summarily being axed and cut. And, what they're trying to do is rebrand us out of existence. And that's really the problem there with the moves that have been made and the lack of understanding or the lack of transparency as to why these things don't matter anymore.
Yes, and just to back up, let's give them a full picture, because that clip was talking about newsrooms, right? But this is not just in newsrooms. This was systematically done through almost every industry in the United States, right?
Yep.
And so when we talk about back, we're talking about, number one, as of January 2020, companies started rolling back their DEI programs. We saw a lot of people. So let's give you some data here. So again, this is not just us making this up, right? Over $2 billion in federal DEI related grants were terminated. $783 million in IIH Equity Research Fund was halted. 1,500 plus NSF grants canceled, which equals over $1 billion. Almost $1 billion eliminated from the Department of Education equity programs. And then we had about 300,000 Black women displaced from DEI, public service, and nonprofit roles. So these ain't coincidences. These are not just one-offs. This ain't, as the clip talked about, these are not financial situations or economic situations or recessions. These are targeted areas that target Black Americans. Okay, and people of color, and you women, and the whole nine yards, right? And so one of the things is in the clip, and again, you can look this up. In 2020, after the George Floyd, you had companies over and over again saying they're going to make a commitment to making sure that all the best people were hired. Okay, not just the best white people. All the best people. So people who didn't even get interviewed, who didn't even get an opportunity, were now they're going to at least get an opportunity. They were going to open up their recruiting processes and to go into more Black colleges and stuff to that nature, not to give them handouts, but to be able to access the talent that they've never accessed before, right? So all these things were going to happen. You had companies putting, as every company had a disclaimer saying that, we believe in diversity and we're in this and we're that. You had the Black Square. You had all these things. Okay. And then now, and let's be fair too, the majority of them never happened anyway. All right. So it was performative. All right. In a lot of places, some places. Yeah. So let's don't stroke a broad brush here, but the majority of them didn't happen, but it doesn't matter. Right? However, what we know is what happened is when the new administration came in, they started rolling these things back. And these are not, again, these are not coincidences. As we started in our monologue, right? Black progress is never permanent. It's always contested. And we've seen this before throughout history, that every time we take a couple of steps forward, and not based on somebody giving us something, but more based on our sweat equity and our talent and all the things, they find ways to be able to roll them back.
You said something very poignant about the, over 250,000 Black women that lost their professional opportunities in 2025. And these rollbacks didn't just erase programs, they collapsed entire professional ecosystems. Everybody's job, just because you were Black doesn't mean you did a Black job, right? But ironically, when these programs happened, everybody that was Black and happened to be in a job, that happened to be a vice president that happened to be Black, as opposed to a Black vice president, they were all scrutinized and tasked and asked, what did you do today? And all this other kind of stuff, right? more importantly, although the $2 billion went to the rollback, that was actually a roll up redistributed in bonuses to these dudes, these white males, these people in elite power. The money didn't just go into the ether, Tony. They cut these jobs and reallocated that money to the bonuses and the structure. So it was all part of the plan.
Buddy, but that was what the clip stated.
Right.
Okay, so that's the point.
Right.
The clip that we played is not some animation. It's
Right.
not imagine one day. That was a
Right.
factual situation.
Right.
Okay, that happened in the newsroom.
Right.
Okay, multiple newsroom. So that was factual. That wasn't
Right.
a story. That was real. All right.
Right.
And what happened? As it stated in the clip, the 9 people in the black people in the production got laid off while their white counterparts were getting new jobs.
Right.
They were going up. They were so that's real. And then they gave other examples. All the other media. That was just media. Okay, that was just media. So that didn't go into all the other things that I spoke about and you talked about, right? And so at the end of the day, these things are intentional. Okay, this wasn't 2008 when you had the financial collapse, right? That affected everybody. Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and the auto industry, and we get that, right? But this was targeted, okay, and so much so. What was it? Late January, like 47 wasn't even in office that long, and then you had the horrific
Helicopter?
plane crash.
Helicopter.
The helicopter ran into the plane. Right. What was the first thing that was said? I blame DEI, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is DEI fault. This is not 4 or 5 days in, no evidence, no nothing. So these things are intentional. Okay, and so. That's what happened. That's a big thing that happened in 2025, and it can't be forgotten. This is I wasn't down on my luck, or I wasn't good enough to do my job. You were doing it, okay? This was none of that. This was again a systematic, targeted attack. Okay, specifically, right? So and this is the thing though too. Do they come out and say that we getting rid of black people?
Right.
Of course not. Right? What's that old saying? Rollback doesn't announce itself as racism.
Right.
It introduces itself as reason. Right? And then now you gotta is this real? Or is it Memorex? All right. Did this, and so, but these things ain't coincidences. That's why you look at the data, and the data states that.
Right. It's interesting how the efficiency somehow always meant fewer jobs for black folks, fewer jobs for women, influential roles, right? Fewer executive bonuses, like any way that they could squeeze or take, they charge it as efficiency on the balance sheet.
Buddy, exactly, and that's the point, right? So they don't come out and call it. We don't come out and tell everybody we targeting. They come out and say we doing a Doge.
Right.
All right, we're doing an efficiency thing, right? And this and that, but at the end of the day, they've targeted, and then the numbers speak to that. That's those are not coincidences. That's the point. Those things are not just happenstance. Those are targeted, right? And then so one of the things though is that how did people fight back? What was one of the ways people fought back in terms of seeing this happened, right? Billionaires making more money. And let's be fair though too. This is, buddy, we've been saying this for years. The strategy has always been divide and conquer, right? If we can divide people, we can control them. We can go. We can have power, right? So at the end of the day, how do you do that? How do you get them to do? Go ahead.
The old checkbook sit in, right? So it's not like go to the diner and sit in. Now it's you retract your checkbook, you boycott, you put things in place.
No. I'm not even talking. The boycott is what we do to fight against it, right? I'm talking at the end of the day, you use fear, you use race to divide people.
Yep.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's the first thing.
Yep.
Right. So when you use race to divide people, then you're saying that they're getting stuff that other people are not.
Should have got it.
If
Absolutely.
you're saying that they're getting jobs so think about it for a second. And see, buddy, this is why this is important. Okay, this wasn't just January 2025 we start eliminating. It's set up earlier than that. So what was the narrative prior to January 20th, 2025?
That from their perspective?
Yeah, from their perspective, prior to January 2020, what was the narrative?
Oh, that we're losing the country and that we're losing our way and that we're losing. Like
These people are getting opportunities
absolutely.
you ain't
Absolutely.
getting. Okay,
Absolutely.
that was the narrative.
Absolutely.
And wait a minute, it wasn't just a one-off. It went to everybody. We just said 2 planes crashed, and they went to say DEI.
Yep.
That didn't start January 27th or whatever the
Correct.
date was. It was
Right.
6 months, a year prior. They were
Right.
priming it. How were they priming it? How were they priming it?
Oh, through the campaign, through misinformation.
Misinformation, but it wasn't just a presidential campaign. It was a targeted look. When the boat hit the
Bridge
Baltimore
in
Bridge,
Baltimore Bridge,
right?
yeah.
What did they call that? They called him the DEI mayor.
Yep,
All right,
yep,
you see
yep,
my point. It was a collective narrative
Yep.
that came from all angles.
Yep.
Right? All
Right.
angles.
Right.
Okay. This is before they even before the new administration came in. This was them because again, divide and conquer.
Right.
Okay. So if you living somewhere and all you reading and watching is that these people are getting this, they doing this. Look, they said they're going to make 50% of their workforce people of color. So they must be lowering the standards for them to do that. They're just, you see, that was the narrative.
Right.
That was the narrative. And then when you get people to believe it, or especially people who don't have a lot themselves, okay, to be fair. And so they're like, why nobody's helping us? And they say that they're the reason. So instead of them putting it on them, they're not gonna do that. So now we gotta divide, we gotta use race to divide people. And how do you do, buddy? Come on, man. We this is 1898 Wilmington, North Carolina playbook. This is what they did back then, right? They used the media to push all these things out, right? And then now, when they get into power, what do? They start taking it down, right? On purpose. Okay, so this ain't shocking, but this reason, and this is why I love my sister Nasinga, put these top moments together in 2025 so people don't forget, okay, what time it is, right? Now, let's go to your point.
Right.
In terms
from the other
of,
side. What did we do?
Now, what did we do? Right?
Yes.
What did we do, to be able to combat these things, right? In terms of things that was in our power.
It's been over a month since President Trump took office for his second term. And in that time, we've seen a lot of protests against his policies. But tonight, a different sort of protest is taking place across the country. It is an economic blackout aimed at major U.S. companies. Now, the idea is to take aim at corporations and billionaires that protesters say are controlling American politics. The method, refusing to spend money for 24 hours.
Participants are boycotting large corporations like Starbucks and Amazon for 24 hours on Friday. Instead, people are encouraged to go to small businesses, use cash only, or not spend anything at all.
If enough people come together, we can definitely make a difference.
Don Schwartz, the founder, posted social media videos asking people to hold the line.
Because the truth is simple. We, the people, are the economy. Without us, nothing moves. Without us, there is no profit.
It's you follow the money, right? You follow the money to the best of your possibility. And ironically, some of this stuff, because of the way in which it was facilitated, had an effect. But it's I don't know the level of effect that it had based on historical reference. So think about I said this earlier about the sit-in, right? So when you had these situations, a lot of people in their hearts and minds believe this was 2-3 days. That the bus boycott was 18 hours. You know what I mean? This stuff went on, and just in this day and time, it's hard to find people with the Constitution to stick by this level of discomfort because it's shaping or shifting your norms. When you have to make a level of sacrifice to show you mean business, and just like suing the insurance company, they're going to outweigh you, and they're going to let you die before they give you this money, right? They're going to hold out as long as they can. And so it's difficult, but it's necessary to show we mean business. In your impression, Tony, what did you feel about the boycotts, and how much energy did you feel it generated, as opposed to what we remember these boycotts and these protests being when we were younger?
Yeah, well, I wasn't around in '55, so but the effectiveness was strong because it took an entire community that was sold out and committed. Most people don't recognize the Montgomery boycott took over a year.
Yep.
Okay, it was 365 days or something like that. It was a year and a month, a year and a week, or something to that effect, right? And so think about it. For that long, people decided they wasn't riding the bus. So that they were committed, they were dug in. As you heard in the clip, you had certain things. We're gonna do this for a day. Well, let's be fair. A day is not gonna, you might, and then people can manipulate their numbers, right?
Yep.
You bought something on Wednesday, but we don't show up. It doesn't show up in the data until Friday when they report the number. So they can say, well, nothing really happened, right?
Right.
The thing is this. The real key, and so it depends on the circumstance. Some people, when I went to the Black Week, they spoke about this, and and I don't have the numbers. I wish I had the numbers, but Target number one was like the big company that people, no pun intended, Target,
right?
All right, and evidently it affected their numbers, right?
It did.
So to be fair, it definitely had an effect. Did we have everybody 100% singing Kumbaya? No. But all that being said, people started, as you heard in the clip, my man said flat out, we are the economy.
Yep.
Okay, and so if you stop spending money, you can have an effect. So let's think about it for a second, right? Corporate DEI commitments, we talked about it. They collapse under political pressure. So then Black consumers started, saying, hey, we ain't gonna spend our money. And so, let's be fair. In some areas, foot traffic did decrease in some urban areas, right? And there was different. Some of those retailers, those big retailers, did feel the pinch. Does that make sense? But again, it's one of the first times in 2025 that we did have political boycotts to let our voices be heard in terms of the rollback. So you go from rollback, right? Because 2025 was the rollback. Let's be fair here, all right? And then we went to how we deal with it. We dealt with it as much as we could from a boycotting standpoint.
Yeah, the tough part about that is, as you stated, they could masquerade the results in something else. They could blame it on COVID. They could blame it on this. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, we was already going to do that anyway." We wasn't planning on selling no more of those anyway. And so the concept of us kind of sticking it to them, where I feel like there was opportunity or some meat left on the bone, was you negotiate the terms or the terms of surrender up front. You say, "Hey, I'm going to do, unless you do this, we're not coming back," or unless you do that. And I think without a unified leadership or organized understanding of what are we doing this for? What outcomes do we demand before I find myself back in the store with red? You know what I'm saying?
No, buddy. Yeah, go ahead, finish.
Yeah. Oh, and so it became, okay, I'm down for the cause. But let me know what needs to be done. Give me the playbook. Tell me what we're going to what's going to benefit me, because everybody's really in it for self-interest at some point. What's going to benefit me 8 months from now when I haven't had this cocoa butter for 37 cents? You know what I'm saying?
So here's the thing, bro. So here's the challenge. The challenge is when so this is the part that's not written about when we talk about the Montgomery boycott thing, right? Is that we talk about, they stopped riding the bus, right? We talked about it was for a year. And then obviously the end result is that, they were able to start riding the bus, right? So they showed that boycotting can work.
Yep.
Here's the thing though. there was still some black people like, I got to go to work.
Right.
All right. And so I don't know what you got. All you guys do is trying to charge more trouble, right? You
Right.
got to recognize it was a different mindset, right? So
Absolutely.
you working somewhere. You the only black dude working for somebody, right? And then there's this boycott going on in the city, all right? And you catch the bus, and then your boss reads it in the paper like, oh, there. And then he comes to you, Chris, let me ask you a question. Are you taking the bus to work? And you say, no, I ain't taking that. We got it. Then you get fired.
Yeah.
All right. And so you can lose your job. So those were the real fears.
Absolutely.
But the majority of people still did it anyway.
Right.
You don't have that much today. Okay.
Right.
You have some people, black people who, they shouldn't give me no job unless I deserve it. What are you talking? So some of them, they bought into the narrative.
Absolutely. Drank the Kool-Aid.
We had the black community, what was it? The black conservative, where he was like, nobody I know would want a job. And so he's believing the narrative. Okay.
Yep.
And so when you have some of that, then look, at the end of the day, and that's going to be in anything, to be fair. This is going to never get 100% of everybody, right?
Yeah.
But my point is, you make a great point. That's what I'm trying to get to. Is that it wasn't set. It was just like, hey guys, we're gonna get together, start boycotting these guys, right? And then look, some people did, some people didn't, right? And so it had some effectiveness, but it didn't have the effectiveness that it could have had. Here's the other thing too. This is the one thing. So in the Singer's piece here, she breaks it all down point by point. But the one thing that she doesn't say, all right, and she does say it point by point. But if you had to break it down, 2025 was also the year of chaos. Okay, so when you have chaos, when they throwing so many things at you at one time, it's hard to stay focused because by the time you're saying as soon as you say we need to get on, and then they throw something else
Something
at
over
you.
there, yeah.
And then you're like, oh shit. And then next thing you know, you just give up. You're like, it's just too many things at one time. Plus,
It's
I got to take care of
exhausting.
my family. I got to do this,
Yep.
I got to do that. Whole nine yards, right? So that's also part of it. Right?
Yep.
That's also part of it. They didn't have social media in 1954, 55, or whatever the year was. Right? They ain't had that. Right? And so at the end of the day, they were dealing with one issue.
That's right.
We want to ride the bus.
That's right.
Versus a ton of issues.
Absolutely.
Right? That everybody ain't on the same page with. Okay? To be fair. Right?
Yep.
And so that's also part of, it's like watering down your power. Okay. And for you to have strong power, the majority of people has got to be on top of it. Okay. And it's got to be consistent. And it's got to be, like you said, we got to keep them rah-rah. We got to, don't do it. Don't this and that. I know you need that, that shea butter.
Right,
or whatever the case may be. But buy it somewhere. So you got people rallying all the time, keeping people engaged. Right.
Yep.
But look, at the end of the day, it was something, and it wasn't just that. Let's be fair. You had what was it called? Was it Y2K? It was what was the boycott? 50 states, 50 the protest, 50 states, 50 where they had protests.
Yeah,
in
in every
50 states,
yeah,
and around there,
absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely.
it wasn't even just about the financial thing. You also had other protests that were going on all over. So people were pushing back as much as look, could they have done better? Absolutely, right? Yeah. But the bottom line is that was part of the of 2025. You saw it wasn't just a financial boycott. There were all different type of protests going on, pushing back against the narrative.
But what you were talking about earlier was the idea that it was coordinated. And so unlike the situation, we're going to go back to the bus because we were talking about being at the back of the bus. But when the bus company had its woes, it didn't collude with the water company and the businesses and all these people get together, the powers that be get together and say, hey, we're going to make it hard everywhere to distract them. We were able to focus on just the bus situation because but now with the sphere of control, you got different people collaborating and colluding to make sure that, hey, distract them here, distract them there. It's all just a big, chess game. And that's the problem when we have these people in influence and in power trying to take control of our lives at multiple layers. Like you said, it's a layered game.
Here's the thing though, Bron. Again, you got to also recognize in the beginning, and we keep using the Montgomery bus boycott, right? And there were other not bus boycott, but there were other sit-ins. You got to recognize,
yeah, absolutely.
People
Protest.
were doing sit-ins.
Right.
They were doing a million protests. Not saying a million, but they were doing protests.
Right.
The thing from the power base, which is different today, that back then it was like, we don't think they can be committed.
Right.
We don't, this should be over in a week or two.
Right.
They need the bus, you know, so they thought this was just a matter. Nobody had shown that type of commitment before, especially from an economic standpoint, right? Especially where it's something that's they need to be able to go to work and all that type stuff, right?
Right.
So most of the time they just thought it'd just be a matter of time and they'll give in, to be fair.
Wait them
right?
out. Absolutely.
We wait them out, right? So we haven't shown that type of resolve, right? We've shown we'll do this and that and jump to your point, but we haven't got together on one issue. And the majority of people, and you're never going to get everybody, but the majority of people are dug in, and they're going to, and not, when I mean dug in, it's not just that they're doing it. They're telling them, "Mama, don't go there."
Right, absolutely.
They're seeing people getting ready to walk in. They're like, "Don't go in there."
Man,
right? They keep in there.
Now for
us, that's the difference, right? So you have a collective voice where everybody is not. You just don't need a leader. You need everybody singing the song, reminding people of what we're fighting about, right? But when people don't see that, and you said it, if they don't see that this is going to benefit them. They're like, "What you talking about? You just making noise." And they might even be like, "Look, man, I'm with you, and but at the end of the day, I don't see how me not buying this shea butter is going to stop anything." And they'll break it down. They'll justify it any way they need to justify it, right? But the other thing, though, too, man. So we talked about the year of roll. It was look, overall theme is rollback, right? And we talked about that, and then we talked about 2025 being about boycotts. Protests, right? But then also 2025 was also about, AI. Okay?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And surveillance. And then more importantly, how a law in Georgia could affect someone when it came to their health and their pregnancy, and how it's something we've never seen before.
We're joined tonight by ABC senior political correspondent Rachel Scott with the story stirring deep emotions.
Byron, and it is a tragic story. It's an example of the confusion that has happened in some states after the fall of Roe versus Wade, raising questions about what doctors and families can do in the rare instance where a woman is pregnant and legally dead.
You just want to scream. You just want to scream,
In February, her daughter Adriana Smith was 9 weeks pregnant, expecting her second child, when suddenly her health spiraled. Her story making headlines across the country.
Adriana Smith has been on life support since February.
A pregnant woman kept alive after being declared brain dead in Atlanta.
It's one of the most shocking and rarest cases in the world. The 30-year-old brain dead woman was kept on ventilators, continuing her pregnancy for 4 more months.
Did the doctors give you any choices to make? Any options?
The option was that there's a law in place and they have to follow the guidelines of the law. So I guess the heartbeat law, and the baby did have a strong heartbeat. He was going to be treated as the patient, not Adriana.
The case raising serious ethical, moral, and legal questions about continuing a pregnancy for a woman who has already been pronounced dead.
It is extremely unprecedented to have a mom who is brain dead sustained on life support starting from the first trimester.
The biggest and most startling and disturbing fact is this one was 9 weeks. That baby's going to be inside a dead body for a very long time.
It's so tough because you have a Hippocratic oath as a physician to do no harm to the patient. So then the question becomes, legally or otherwise, who's the patient? You know what I mean? And they made a determination, that the baby was the patient. To hell with everybody else and whatever else was established. Hey, this is what and if there was a level of consistency, you could absorb it better. But ironically, it seems that we're always on the short end of the stick of I made this determination because of, but then you see it on the other. We've talked about this numerous times from legal perspectives and cases in Ohio and all that other kind of stuff. And I think the reason why this was so amazingly shocking was because it had come off of something that had been established, Roe versus Wade, and then dismantled. And so we talk about the rollback. We're rolling this back to the 1500s where women didn't have a say-so. And so, we're rolling this back to caveman days where you had a club, you drag her by the head and by the hair into the cave. Like, this is just amazingly ironic that all of a sudden, when we don't want the rules to apply to a certain subset of society, being women, reproductive rights, things of that nature, we're like, oh, I'm just going to make this determination and like my mom, because I said so.
Buddy, so you hit it around the head. See, again, this didn't just happen in 2025. This is an effect of something that got overturned, Roe versus Wade. And basically now your woman is a woman. This ain't your body.
Right.
This the government's body. Okay. Right. And that's basically what the heartbeat law states. Okay. So at the end of the day, it doesn't, you heard the mother say, they said, what? Well, because of the law, they have to take care of the baby. Wait a minute. Okay. So the parent, the family's wishes means nothing.
Means nothing. Correct.
Okay. It means nothing. It's their daughter, that grant means nothing. And it's that we're going to make this woman. So you heard the dude, which sounds not draconian, but it sounds like a ghoulish, I should say, right? That a baby's going to be in a dead body until it's born, just because they created a law, right? And I think a lot of times you come up with these laws not realizing or flushing them out in terms of what could actually happen. So Adriana Smith became the poster child of the heartbeat law, okay? And at the end of the day, to your point, it makes the Roe versus Wade
overturning, yep,
right, real, because now basically our ladies, their bodies don't belong to them.
Right.
Okay. Which makes no sense. Right. Okay. Which makes, and to be fair, the majority of people would be like that. I'm totally against that. Blah, 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 blah. But Adriana Smith is now the poster child of the heartbeat law.
Yeah. And it becomes tough because as you said, it's at least insensitive. It's at most deplorable to have a situation where you're a citizen, you're a tax-paying, law-abiding citizen as a woman, and you don't have all rights reserved to tax-paying, law-abiding citizens.
But here's the thing, though, bro. So the law, and again, I could be totally wrong, but the law, the heartbeat law, was more about anti-abortion.
Correct.
Okay. So,
correct.
If you had a certain time frame to go get an abortion, but then as soon as you hear a heartbeat, then you can't get an abortion, right?
Right.
It wasn't meant for somebody dying. Okay. That's the point. That's the point. Right?
Yeah,
so it wasn't meant for that. But they're playing it letter by the law.
Absolutely.
That's the issue.
When they feel it benefits them, they're playing it letter by the law, because we've talked about the KKK using the Bible as validation for slavery. It's ironic that, for example, I don't want to jump off into too tough of this, but the Constitution is absolutely right until it doesn't fit my narrative. Then they didn't mean that when they said that. That wasn't, it was, you get what I'm saying? It's you got certain people that are, it's so crazy, dog.
It's so true. It's to justify anything. And here's the thing, though. And so, hold on real quick. I want to say Happy New Year. We had Sal and Sonia reach out.
Oh, that's what's up.
Happy New Year, guys. Hey, glad you guys joined BEP Live. Let's hear your thoughts on some of this stuff, right? Jump in. Let's hear your thoughts.
Sal always got something. Sal always got something.
Sonia, let's hear you're a woman. Let's hear what time it is, right? But here's the thing, though, bro, is that at the end of the day, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and not just, it was about Adriana Smith, but it was in a bigger sense, and I get it, if you're pro-life, I get it. If you're pro-choice, I get it, right? And at the end of the day, God will decide when you go visiting, when you on your way.
Mm-hmm.
He'll see. This is where we want to be gods here on the planet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
We want to tell people what they can do and say God is against that. You don't know. All right. And at the end of the day, if it's an issue, then God will deal with them.
Absolutely.
If you really believe, right, that this person gonna go to hell, then guess what? God will deal with them. You ain't got to deal with them, right? But here's my point. This is the bigger point. Is that at the end of the day, we got people starving. We have children that don't have homes. We had my man, what's his name, Patrick? I mean, he came on, he talked about the foster care when he was in the foster care. He couldn't get adopted. Okay? We got kids, and then, but at the end of the day, we still gonna let kids be born when you ain't set up nothing to take care of them.
Right.
All right? But at the end of the day, you're saying God said they got to be born. Wait a minute. You can't have it both ways here. Okay? So there's nothing set up. So a baby comes in, nobody wants. Okay? And at the end of the day, they don't have no money. They ain't got no play. But that's okay. That's okay. As long as their birth. That's all we care about. We don't care about the stuff outside of that or after that. Right? And I'm not saying it's right or all I'm saying is it goes beyond just this one thing. That's all I'm saying.
All of the rollback items that we'll be talking about today is just synonymous with an exercise of control. I'm showing you that if I want to, I can. I'm showing you the level of power, influence, and supremacy that I have over all, like you said, playing God. What it is I just need you to know, don't get too comfortable. Don't get too cute, because I will come, or we will create policies, procedures, protocols that will make sure that we show you who's in charge.
Here's the thing now. So
Yes, sir.
wait, hold on. There's a couple of things here. So my man Reginald, I just put up this, he said Frankenstein with a God complex. Right? Definitely agree with that, right?
Dr. Frankenstein.
And then Gail says because men come up with these asinine laws, right? So if men, somebody said this too, if men were getting pregnant, you wouldn't have this shit.
Right.
If men were giving babies, it wouldn't happen. Right. But the point I wanted to go to, I just lost my train of thought because I wanted to go somewhere else with this. But net, it doesn't matter, right? So we had that. And then let's be fair too. You know, Adriana Smith, there were other, Sonia Massey. There were other Black women's cases that became prominent in 2025 when somebody gets shot in the face, okay, we'll get a pot of water. I'm sorry. See, these are the things though, man. So you have rollback, right? You had protests, and then you had boycotting, and now you have the year of control. 2025 is about control.
Right.
We can say, but you can't. Go ahead, buddy.
The greatest measure of control, and we witnessed this in 2025 as we moved forward, is that we're talking about things being placed in the law by men who are asinine. But the reality of it is the laws didn't even apply to the men that are asinine creating the laws. The people were pardoned. The people were absolved. Like, dog, it's a situation where 1 minute you saying the law says this, then next week you're like, no, don't look at the law. Don't worry about the law.
But hold on. That was 2025 was also the year of the pardon.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So you never heard the word pardon, and I've been alive for years. Never heard it. You heard it one time at the end of the year. All right, when the president's on his way out. All right, or maybe you hear it from a state standpoint where the dude on death row is trying to get the governor to pardon him. So those are the only times you heard the word pardon. Now it's just a regular thing, right? But this is the point I wanted to get to. Okay, this is the point I wanted to get to. So in 1927, they had the prohibition laws, right? And so what was prohibition about?
About alcohol. What
about it? But what about it?
Oh, but they were taking it out. Like you couldn't sell or distribute or consume alcohol.
But why did they? But why did they ban drinking? Why did they ban drinking? Do you know why?
No, I didn't. I don't know why.
because it was a biblical. It was a
immoral.
religious
Okay.
thing. It was a
Okay.
moral code,
Okay,
right?
okay.
So they banned it because they're like, you shouldn't be drinking and blah blah blah. That's what that was about.
Okay, okay.
That's how it started. It was called the Moral Act. Somebody look it up, but that's what it was about, right? But then what happened? Why did it come back? Huh?
Oh, their money.
It was money.
Money. Yeah. Follow the money.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You had the bootleggers. They started.
Yes,
that's
sir.
how they got rich.
Yeah, that's how
All right? Because
NASCAR.
people
That's how
still gonna
NASCAR
drink
began.
in the whole 9 yards. This and that, and then the government was like, "Oh hell no, we got to get part of that." So we gonna bring that back. You see my point here? So they went from a moral standpoint. It was the same thing. You can't drink. Blah blah blah. Trying to legislate morality.
That's correct.
Okay. And then when they saw how much money that the bootleggers was making, they lost their buddy. Hey, Jesus will deal with you, but I want your money.
Right.
All right. Quick to move to that.
Yep.
Okay, but when it comes to this, women's rights to their own body, we can tell you what to do. Okay, so the year of control, right now. But here's the thing, though, too, buddy, is that at the end of the day, it wasn't just from control of the body, right? It was also, we talked about this earlier too, that AI became. And look, it didn't. And let's be fair, AI didn't just start in 2025, right? But it started ramping up. Now we're at a point where it's going insane.
A 2019 report found that due in part to biased mortgage approval algorithms, lenders were 80% more likely to reject Black applicants than similar white applicants. A 2022 study found that AI models used to predict liver disease were twice as likely to miss the disease in women than in men. A 2025 study found that AI resume screening tools almost never selected Black male names to proceed in the hiring process. This is unacceptable. And that is why today, Congresswoman Clark, Jayapal, Lee, Presley, and I are reintroducing the Artificial Intelligence Civil Rights Act.
Man, so the reality of it is, it turns out that the algorithm doesn't see color or gender until it absolutely does, right? And then it knows exactly what it's doing, and because it's an algorithm, nobody can hold it accountable. Nobody can say Bob programmed it to be racist or biased or whatever. And the fact is, bias is always going to be more scalable than justice. It's always going to be more scalable. And so we're in a situation where these things, we're left at the behest of Skynet, the Terminator, where you going in there crossing your fingers and you forced to name your kid something. You know what I mean? And it's a tough situation to be in when you see that the data is supporting what we already knew, what we already supposed, and what we already warned about. Ironically, my fear now, Tony, is that we're talking about this on our platform and we're ringing the gong and telling people from the town crier situation that the end of times are coming and all this and all that. And they're like, And then when it comes, they're like, oh, dang, how could this have happened? What the hell? We've been talking about this on a Black Executive Perspective for years.
Fine. And there's other people. But you're right. But there's other people chat. But there's not enough action on it, right? People are not paying attention to it, right? And so let's back up a little bit, right? Because the bottom line is that so just to be fair, that was the senator, what's his last name? I forget. He's a senator in Massachusetts. It starts with an M. I forget. Massey, I think it is. Not Massey, it's something else. I met him when I went to the Martin Luther King breakfast in Boston in January last year, 2025, right? So he's a senator in Massachusetts, right? And so that's what he was just touching the surface of how AI, when it comes to, people of color, women, whole 9 yards, and to your point, is drastically, all right? And we've seen this even when they were trying to use AI for Doge, okay? And trying to eliminate, right? And so whoever's programming it has a bias, right?
Yes, sir.
So the algorithm will have a bias, right? And these ain't coincidences. So think about, and we've talked about this before in some of our earlier episodes. These studies, like if you have a Black name okay, versus a white name, and you for a resume. The person with the black name don't get picked. I mean, but these are data. These are facts. Okay, see, these are facts. This is stuff making up, right? But at the end of the day, these things are important for you to recognize and to understand and to push back. And that's why we have my girl Erin Reddick on, who created Black Chat GPT. Right. And that's why she talked about, you know, what she saw and why she created this and, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, people need to dive in and really be at the, because you will get left out. And from facial recognition to all different types of things, these things are real now. Okay. So you go there and next thing you know, you at the airport and you got face, you ain't even need your ID. Okay. Face recognition. And then you ready to go. And next thing you know, hold up. Your ass wanted in 30 states.
You fit the description. You fit the description.
Right? What are you talking about? I haven't even had a parking ticket. Don't matter. We got you. Blah, blah. And then next thing you know, you missed your flight. They got you detained and this and that. And then they finally find out through, you know, elimination, you know, oh, it ain't you. All right. My bad. We sorry.
My bad.
All right. That's it.
That's
okay.
it.
These things are real. Real. You have now people trying to, that's why some people don't even want to leave the country because of the immigration stuff. And you come back and you put your passport and they're like, oh no. Because here's the thing. What is it? It's, what is it? 8 billion people on the planet? How many billion people on the planet?
8 billion. 8 billion.
8 billion. So it's 8 billion people on the planet, right? Let's be fair now. Out of 8 billion people on the planet, do you think there are people who look alike?
Man, absolutely.
Are you kidding me? There's probably 10 people look like you.
Doppelgangers.
Absolutely. Buddy.
Absolutely.
Flat out. Matter of fact, if you look at TV shows, all right, and they have a father and the son or the mother and the sister, they are actors, right? At the end of the day, they don't come from the same family, but when you look at them, they look like from they look like
I can see it. I can see it. Absolutely.
I was watching. What was the show I was watching with the brothers? Not Kings or Queens, but whatever, with the sons and the mother and this and that, and the sons were both dark hair, and one was 6 something the other, and you look at them, you're like, yeah, they could be brothers. All right, so think about that. Okay, think about that. So we all have a twin or a sister or somebody on this planet that look identical to us. That is a fact. Maybe, like I said, probably 10 people that do. Okay, so now all of a sudden, your twin that looks like you, they robbing banks. They're doing some nefarious shit. All right, they committed rape. They doing that, and then now their facial recognition is that their face is just like yours, and you walk in and they nabbing you. Guys, this is real here. Okay, this ain't made up. This ain't a coincidence. These are real things, right, that we need to be on top of. Okay, so 2025 was the year of AI, right? Let me get to some of these comments, right? Thanks, Sal. Sal said the senator of Massachusetts, Edward Markey. Thank you. I said Massey, but Markey, right? And then what did Reggie say here? He says, allegedly AI only knows what has been taught. Who's the program? Absolutely. That's Reggie. That's exactly what we're talking about, right? And then Gail, that's what the show. Everybody Loves Raymond. That's the show. Where the brothers, they actors, but they look alike. All right. So it's easy to be like, so look, we got twins. We got quadruples. It's a matter of time, right? It's a matter of time. Your thoughts, my brother.
The issue that you run into is that these bias didn't just pop up. It's the issue that with AI, it's expedited and everything is so fast, right? So they're jumping to conclusions faster. This is why Jerry Seinfeld doesn't go by Jerome, right? But he could explain it back in the day, like, hey, obviously I'm Jerry, you know what I mean? But in the idea of now, the decisions, the lack of justification is so much faster because it's not guilty until or innocent until proven guilty. From us, most part is guilty. And like you said, they jam you up at the airport. It's not benefit of the doubt. It's not this, that. The computer told me you were no good, Pastor.
You the dude.
Like you got on a
I don't want to hear nothing you got to say. It don't matter.
It don't matter.
Said it. It don't matter.
It don't matter.
You done.
You done. And the analytics tells you that the computer is often inaccurate or factually incorrect and you get a, oh, well, my bad that you lost that job. My bad you didn't make it home to your dying child, in the nick of time. My bad that because you just shouldn't have been born like that. And that's not okay.
Absolutely. So listen, these are just some of the stories that Nsinga on the Burden Wire put together. We don't have time to go others. The year of extraction, she talked about the year of culture and consequence. We didn't get a chance to go over Kendrick Lamar and Outkast and stuff to that nature, right? The year of counter power, reparations, HBCUs, buildings that were denied, all that type stuff. So I recommend that you definitely go to her website, go to the Burden Wire on Substack and read this article. You're going to learn a lot out of it. But more importantly, you need to be aware. Okay. Yep. We say Happy New Year. This is going to be the next year. And then we walk into a new year thinking that, this is going to be great. No, you need to know exactly what happened. And more importantly, prepare yourself for what could be coming.
Being forewarned is being forearmed. And we have to question things in that moment. We are getting hit with a tsunami of things that are overtaking us. But you have to take those moments to say, okay, wait a second. What are the struggles that I can face? Look for these opportunities to fight back and stand up. And then who controls the narrative? Understand what you're fighting for. And like Dr. Will said, they wouldn't be so vigilant about it if it didn't matter. Stop acting like your vote doesn't matter, that your piece doesn't matter, that your purchase doesn't matter. Everything matters. And you got to follow the money and understand you have a piece in this and everything matters.
Absolutely. So we're going to have to leave it right there.
Yes,
so number one, we thank everybody for checking out BEP Live. And so now before we go, we want to remind everyone to check out my sister who put together the best of 2025, the consequential stories of 2025, Dr. Nsinga Burden. She has her show on BEP every week, every Thursday. Need to know with Dr. Nsinga. Definitely check her out. She dives into the timely and crucial topics, as you can see, right, that shape the community. These are things that you want to talk about. Her show is no longer anywhere between 6 to 15 minutes. Dive in because you're going to learn a lot and you're going to stay up. So check out Need to Know on the Black Executive Perspective podcast here on BEP.
Power packed. And another thing that's going to be power packed. You don't want to miss in just a little over a week, the launch of a Mixed Executive Perspective on a Black Executive Perspective podcast. It's hosted by Grace Food and Corey. It's going to premiere January 14th. This show explores biracial identity, executive leadership, fear, purpose, belonging, giving a voice and perspective to those who are often unheard. We are combining more and more, and we need to understand how that all works if we're going to be the melting pot and the bastion of liberty that the United States is. And this show touches all those things and more, heartstrings and all that. Honest, thoughtful, and necessary. You don't want to miss this January 14th, a Mixed Executive Perspective.
Absolutely. And then you don't forget our roundtable. It's always provocative. They get together. They provide their, most, hot takes. They don't hold back. So check out Pull Up, Speak Up here on the Black Executive Perspective podcast, where every voice counts, every perspective sparks change. It isn't just talk. It's a call to action and a revolution. So check out Pull Up, Speak Up.
Yeah, that roundtable get hot. It's real entertaining, if nothing else. We also would be remiss if we didn't let you know that why we're doing this. We're doing this to incorporate our call to action, which is LESS, less. Our goal is to eliminate all forms of discrimination, and to achieve this, we're asking everyone to embrace, incorporate, and join the movement with less. The L is for learn. Educate yourself on racial, cultural, political, societal, annual nuances to help you be more prepared as you move through the world.
Absolutely. And after you learn, you have the letter E, which stands for empathy. Now, since you've learned, now you should be more empathetic to other people's situations, because now you can put yourself in their shoes.
The first S stands for share. You want to share your insights, enlighten others. Don't hide it, divide it. We love the fact that you get on here and chat and share things with us, and we try to share things with you. This is what it's about. We have to be with each other together in order to make it to the next level.
Absolutely. And the final S stands for stop. We want everyone to stop discrimination as it walks in your path. And it's as easy as at the Sunday dinner table. If Aunt Jenny or Uncle Joe says something that's inappropriate, don't sit there with your mouth open or giggling. You say, Aunt Jenny, Uncle Joe, we don't believe that. We don't say that. And you stop it right there. So if everyone in 2026 can incorporate less, LESS, will build a more fair, more understanding world. And guess what? We all will see the change that we want to see because less will become more.
We can no longer be silent. Silence is complicit. And you want to make sure you at least ask questions if you see something in your path that appears to be disturbing. Tune in to the next episode we have. We obviously invite you back next Tuesday live to get in and interact with us. Look at other episodes in our catalog. Go to the website, sign up for the newsletter, check out the monthly newsletter, the monthly perspective. You'll love the things that are on there. Very creative, innovative graphics are off the chain. You don't want to miss that. But go ahead and review us and let us know what you'd like to hear about. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening. And where can they find us, Tony?
My brother, they can find the Black Executive Perspective podcast right here on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on our social channels of LinkedIn, X, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at A Black Exec. We also have our upcoming podcast academy in February, right? If you are watching this and you are seeing this and you're like, man, I want to get out there and give my perspective and I want to have my platform. And it doesn't have to be about what we talk about. If you want to create a podcast about baking cookies or, wine connoisseur or whatever it be, join our podcast academy so you can learn the skills from Chris and myself from concept. By the end of the program, you're going to be launching your first podcast episode. So check us out. Definitely go to the website, learn more. We'll be sending some more information out. You can sign up. Definitely dive in. And then finally, before we close out, we didn't get a chance to go over our 2026 predictions. So we're going to do that next week on the show. So dive in, check it out so you can see what BEP is thinking where 2026 is going to go. So for my fabulous co-host, the co-host with the most, my boy down in Dallas, Chris P. Reed, I'm Tony Tidbit. We talked about it. We learned about it. We laughed about it. Unfortunately, we were a little sad about it, but we're going to keep striving and thriving about it. We love you, and guess what? We're out.
A Black Executive Perspective.